Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys like eyeshadow palettes because we're going to be going over some really awesome eyeshadow palettes from the drugstore. You might remember a couple weeks back I mentioned these little 5-pan palettes from Wet n Wild in a video. I then mentioned them in a favorites video because I have been loving on these things so much over the last month or month and a half. So I was at my drugstore the other day to pick up 1 or 2 more and I came home with 5. And as soon as I got home I started swatching these and I was over the moon excited about these. There are some fantastic shades inside here, some really unique formulas, really fantastic color stories, and I just had to do a dedicated video on these today with you guys and share these palettes with you. So we're going to go through all of them. I'll be swatching them. We'll take a look at the color stories, talk about the formulas, and I'll talk to you guys about why I think these are so special and unique, especially from the drugstore. These eyeshadow palettes are doing something that I don't think I've ever seen done in a drugstore palette, at least like a storefront drugstore eyeshadow palette before, and I'm obviously very excited about it. I hope you guys are excited as well. Before we jump into the palettes, I want to welcome any of you that are new to my channel. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you do, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please be sure to do that before you leave. With all of that said, let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so I ended up picking up 2 of the larger palettes, the 10-pan palettes, these 2 right here. I have the Call Me Sunshine palette and the Lights Off palette. We will take a closer look at these in just a sec. And then I got 3 of the 5-pan palettes, these ones right here. We have the My Lucky Charm palette, the Petalette palette, and the Sundays palette. So here's how this video will go. We'll quickly go through each of the palettes individually. I'll show you guys some swatches. I'll talk about some of the shades that I'm especially excited about. Go into some of the unique details about some of the formulas inside these palettes. And after I go through all of the palettes, I'm going to include just the swatches of each of the palettes separately so you can see how they compare to each other. And I'll also include in that setup the swatches of these 3 older palettes that I've already swatched as well, so you can get a better idea of which color story or color stories might suit you best. We're going to start with the larger palettes and kick it off with the Call Me Sunshine palette. This palette is an absolute stunner, you guys. I initially was actually not super interested in this one as I was looking at all these palettes in the store. This was the one that I was like, do I really need that? I have bronzes, I have yellows. I already have a lot of matte browns throughout my collection. This one might not be that special, but I think this one is so special and so beautiful. There are some beautiful, beautiful bronzes in here. These 3 shades at the bottom, let me just swatch them live for you guys. They are all so stunning and so very unique. They're each very, very different. Oh, but so beautiful. Look at those 3 right there. I just can feel all of these shades on my eyes in the summertime. I think they are so beautiful. Beautiful formulas, very rich, very smooth, very intense and impactful. I also wanted to point out this shade right here. This is a very unique formula and you'll see this type of formula sprinkled throughout a lot of the palettes within this line, I guess you would call it. This one is a little bit more stiff in the pan, but it's also kind of spongy. It actually reminds me a little bit of the ColourPop Super Shock shadow formula, but not quite as creamy. It is a little bit more sheer, but it's beautiful. It is very, very sparkly, kind of more of a lid topper shade, but I absolutely love it. I have used this one on my eyes and I think it is so pretty. I love that you get a champagne inside here, and this is a really beautiful champagne, good traditional, very impactful formula. I mean, look at that, you guys. Holy cow. That is insane. And I love the matte browns in here. They're each quite unique. I know they look somewhat similar, but I feel like they do give you some variety. Love that you get a dark brown. I mean, this is just a really good, complete palette. If you like a bronzy look, this is like a perfect staple bronze toned palette. Let's move over to the Lights Off palette right here. This is the perfect palette. If you like a smoky eye, you will absolutely love this one. There are some intensely smoky shades in this palette. I have not actually tried these 4 shades yet, but they look so pretty, and I actually have an idea for a look that we may or may not do today. Very excited to try them. Really nice formulas, beautiful, beautiful shades. I want to point out just a couple that I'm especially excited about. This one right here is a beautiful silvery taupe, which you guys know. You know I'm gonna love a shade like this, right? I love a good classic silvery taupe. I also love this shade right here. This is also one of those kind of more lid topper shades, a little bit more of a sheer kind of creamy, sparkly kind of shade, but this one does have a little bit of a duochrome effect to it. I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera. It's kind of a bronze with a subtle green and silver shift. It's really, really beautiful. This palette's not going to give you any lighter matte shades, so if you really rely on like a light transition shade, you might want to pick up one of the other palettes to give you a shade like that, but I'm still very excited about all the shades inside here and cannot wait to do a smoky eye with this one. I think it is so pretty. Let's move on to the 5-pan palette, starting with this one right here. This one is called My Lucky Charm, and it is so lovely. I love this one. I love the green tone shades inside here. You guys know how much I love a green tone shadow, especially when it's more of like an army green or khaki green tone. And you get a couple of those inside here that are really, really lovely. This bronze right here is so unique. Look at this, you guys. It's like a green that has a bronze shift. This just screams fall to me. This shade in the middle right here is very, very unique. Now I haven't actually used this shade on my eyes yet. I have swatched it a couple of times and it doesn't come across quite as dark as it looks inside the pan, but it's a really unique formula. It again has kind of that kind of creamy formula, but this one does have quite a bit more pigment to it. It's a really nice teal that has a purple sparkle throughout that's really interesting. It is so beautiful. I don't know if the purple is going to come across on camera, but you get this like purple reflect and sparkle. I think this one would be so pretty on the eyes. I actually think this shade mixed with the silvery taupe from this palette and then some of that dark matte green in the outer corner would make such a beautiful eye look. I also love that this one gives you a great transition shade, a really good staple bronze, and then a nice color for your outer corner. This one's more of a satin formula, but you definitely could use this in your outer corner. It is really, really pretty. Next up is one of my very favorites. This is the Petalette palette. This one is stunning. The shades inside here create the most perfect cohesive look. I actually used this one the day that I brought these home from the store and I was thrilled with the look that this one created. I wish I would have taken a picture of it or a little video clip for you guys. I'll definitely have to do that another time, but this one is so impressive to me. This shade in the middle is the perfect rosy shade. If you like something that's kind of rosy toned that almost has a subtle purple shift to it, it's just a perfect dusty shimmery rose. It's so pretty. This is so flattering on the eyes. I feel like it would be so flattering on so many different skin tones. But you also get some lighter shades if you want to keep your inner lid lighter, and then you also get this beautiful satin deep purple for the outer corner. Let me just swatch this lighter shade as well for you guys. Really nice kind of icy champagne. It is so pretty. Oh my goodness, so brightening. And then this matte shade right here is the perfect dusty rose for your transition area. Actually reminds me a lot of a couple of the shades in the Anastasia palette. The one, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the dusty rose shade in the Soft Glam palette. This shade reminds me a lot of that. It's so, so pretty. And then last up, I want to show you guys the Sundays palette. This palette I haven't actually used on my eyes. I'm considering using this one today, but this one is so pretty. I have swatched it a couple of times. This shade in the middle is the most beautiful rosy dusty terracotta. It's so stunning. I absolutely love it. I also love the bronze inside here, good staple bronze. And these two shades right here, they are somewhat similar. Let's go ahead and swatch these on the other hand so you guys can see them. So this one right here is a little bit lighter. There it is. Really nice traditional, just good impactful shimmer formula. Beautiful. It's like a gold that has a little bit more champagne in it. It actually reminds me a little bit of one of my very favorite shades of all time, the shade in the center of the Juvia's Place Nomad palette. You guys might know I love that shade. This reminds me a little bit of at least the color of that shade. And then this shade right here, this actually also reminds me a little bit of that shade. This one is a little bit more impactful, a little bit more rich and thick. Look how sparkly and beautiful it is. This one is a little bit deeper. It has a little bit more brown in it, whereas this one's a little bit more champagne. Hopefully you guys can pick those up. I know my hands are getting a little bit stained after all the swatching that I've done. But very beautiful palette. If you like oranges more than you like yellows, then I would go with this one over this one. I mean, obviously this one's a little bit larger. Also has some really pretty bronzes, more variety in that one. But if you like a little bit more warmth, then I think this would be a perfect little palette for you. I cannot wait to use this one this summertime as well. So that's it for the newer palettes that I got. I want to insert for you guys here a comparison of all of these palettes swatched so you guys can see how they compare. There are some overlaps in a few of especially the bronze shades. They're not exact, but there's a little bit of crossover in some of the bronzes, also in some of the matte browns. You might see a little bit of crossover, but hopefully this comparison will give you guys a better idea of which palette or palettes maybe would suit you best. So we're going to get into an eye look for today. I am going back and forth. I really want to do the orange, honestly, and sadly, or pathetically. The thing that's holding me back with this one is that I feel like these colors will clash with my nail color. So ridiculous, Mandy. But I also kind of want to try a combination of like these smoky greens in here. I think would be really, really fun. Let's do it. Let's go for a combination of these two right here. We're going to do kind of a green toned smoky eye. A little bit of silver on the inner corner. I think will be pretty and a little bit different than what I typically do. I do a lot of warm eye looks. And with summer coming up, you better believe I'll be doing a lot of looks like this, if not with this specific palette. So let's start with this palette right here. Again, this is the My Lucky Charm palette. We're going to take the transition shade in the corner and we're going to apply that right through and above my crease, kind of up onto my brow bone. I'm using my Rephr number 1 brush. You could also use the Wayne Goss number 18 brush. Those two brushes are literally, let me just show you. I know I've showed you this before, but there's proof again. These brushes are completely identical. And I'm pretty sure I recommended this brush to you guys when I first started trying out the Rephr brushes. Then I found the number 16 brush and the number 13 brush and kind of fell in love with those two. But I've been going back to this brush again. And it is amazing. I still totally recommend it. In fact, if you want a brush, like just one brush instead of a duo, 2 brushes, if you want to invest in just one really awesome brush that will really do your entire eye look, this is the brush that would do that so good. So I'm just kind of adding another little layer of this, mostly just right in the crease, then a little bit to my lower lash line. Alright, so just kind of laying down a foundation there. So now I'm trying to decide if I want to go in with the matte green first or the shimmery. Let's go with the dark matte green first, and then we'll build up on top of it with the mid-tone green shimmer right there. I just don't want to knock all that beautiful sparkle off when I go in with the darker green. So I'm going to apply it to start with. This, by the way, is the number 13 brush from Rephr. I need to start linking my Rephr brushes. I kind of have forgotten to do that lately. I don't get any sort of commission, but I love these brushes. I highly recommend them, and they were sent to me as a really kind and generous gift from Rephr, so I feel like it's the least I can do is link the brushes that I love and use in my description box. I'm just taking what's left on that brush and just really lightly kind of like pressing it right into my actual eyelashes, which kind of is getting my upper and lower lash line at the same time. I just don't want to go too low on this lower lash line, so I try to keep my eyes closed and just kind of do both at the same time. It's a really pretty shade. These mattes are so nice. I forgot to mention there are some different matte formulas inside here. So these dark mattes in this palette, actually these 4 right here, they're a traditional matte formula. They're a little bit dry, they're nice and pigmented, they're very rich, they're very blendable. But there's also a couple mattes that are included in some of these palettes, some of the darker ones especially, that are a little bit more, they're almost creamy. I think I mentioned this in my last video where I tried these palettes out for the first time, or the first 3 that I tried out, that some of the mattes feel and remind me just a little bit of Natasha Denona's cream to powder formula. Not quite that creamy, kind of close. And that's a formula I've never felt from the drugstore before, with the exception of the Alter Ego eyeshadows, which are meant to actually dupe the Natasha Denona eyeshadow formulas. But those you can actually buy at the drugstore. And that's one of the things that impressed me most with these palettes, is you don't just get a traditional shimmer and a traditional matte. You get a variety of formulas, but they're all good. Like, they all have a purpose, I feel like, and fulfill their purpose. That sounded very deep and intense. We're just talking about eyeshadows here, but I've just been super impressed. I've been super impressed with these shadows from Wet n Wild. So let's now jump over to this palette right here. We're gonna go into this green in the middle. This is a really unique green. It's a little bit on the creamy side. I have a feeling this one might have a little bit of fallout. So I'm gonna take just a little cotton pad right here. I'm going to start applying this. I don't know if you guys can see just how kind of creamy that goes on. It has a creamy quality to it. Let's just say that. Mama! Hi, baby. How are ya? You got gum? Mm-hmm. Oh, lucky. See my new stuff I'm playing with? Mm-hmm. I'm doing this green today. Do you like the color green?
Yeah.
Or you like this? Mm-hmm. You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. Alright, so I'm just taking a clean finger and I'm going to run that just very, very lightly over that front edge, just so it's not too harsh. So when I overlap my other shade on top, it blends a little bit better. Then I'm going to go back to this brush. I didn't add anything. I just want to go over this top edge and make sure it's nice and blended. Okay, so now I want to move over to the silvery taupe right here. Honestly, this would be really pretty as well. This one does have a little bit more pigment to it. It's a little bit more brightening. Because it is so colorful and dark, I feel like I need something bright on the inner lid. So I'm just taking that on my pinky and popping it on the inner third, and then just subtly kind of overlapping it, or kind of pulling that over that edge to blend it. And then the same on the other side. I love using my pinky for my inner lid because it fits perfectly in that little socket right there. Kind of with what's left, I'm just tapping over the center just to add a little bit of extra brightness and sparkle right there in the center. It's not really adding a lot of color or pigment, it's just creating a really seamless transition right there. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. Let's now, I'm going to take my Refer number 2 brush. It's this kind of dense, small, paddle-shaped brush right there. And we're going to go back into the deep green. I'm going to take the tiniest amount just on the very, very tip. And then I'm going to use that to just really lightly shape this outer corner. So I'd like to start right here, kind of at my upper lash line, and then kind of go directly below and just create a nice round shape. And then back to my Refer number 1 brush. Nothing on this. I'm just running it around that outer edge, just barely, to make sure everything's nice and blended. And then you could also go back in and take a sponge. This has my leftover foundation and concealer on it. I'm just running it kind of below where that line is, just to make sure I don't have any of that, because that pigment is so dark. Even the tiniest amount, if it gets below where I want it to be, it's really gonna look dark and messy. So this will just help pull off any of that and kind of cover it a little bit. Alright, that looks great. Let's add some liner, shall we? Let's take my Wet n Wild Simma Brown Now liner. I'm just going to add this to my waterline. I know some of you hate when I do this on camera. And then a tiny bit on the upper lash line, just right at the outer corner. Then I'm actually going to go back to that paddle-shaped brush. There's nothing left on here. I just want to kind of smudge out that liner so it really blends into the green. Let's go ahead and add some mascara. I'm going to add a couple of coats of my, what should I take today? Let's go with my Major Pleasure mascara from Nabla. Then I will be back with you guys and we'll finish off with a couple final thoughts. Alright you guys, here we have the finished look. I feel like I made the right choice. Don't you feel like this is such a pretty color of green? I love that it has more blue in it than emerald, which I feel like in the pan it looks like a classic emerald green, but there's actually a lot more teal in here than you would think, and I really like that. I love the combination with the silver on the inner corner. I feel like it makes it a little bit more wearable, and then of course the brown through the transition, and that dark green in the outer corner is lovely. Love this look. Love these palettes, you guys. I think they are so good. I will admit, I am a little bit partial to Wet n Wild. They make my very favorite eyeliner in the whole world. I love a lot of their other products, and of course I love their price point. So if they come out with something that I feel like is a really good formula, especially for their price point, it really does impress me. And I've got to say, you guys, I think these are super impressive once again. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it was helpful for you guys. I would love to know if you guys have tried these out, which ones you have tried out, if there are any that I haven't yet tried out that you think that I should. You might be seeing these palettes make a reappearance in a very exciting video coming up very soon, where I'm going to be taking a new eyeshadow palette that I just ordered that is very uncomfortably expensive, and we're going to see if we can do like a dupe look. So I'm going to do an affordable look on one side and the high-end look on the other. We're going to see if you guys can tell the difference. So that will be a fun video. Make sure you check back soon for that one, and let that be a reminder. Make sure that you are subscribed if you have not yet subscribed to my channel. But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, for stopping by today, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. That is very in the afternoons and evenings down here, when I'm tired, just get wild down here. Making jokes to myself. I'm done. So I just got done filming, but I'm done. So you can make noise or whatever.